What do you guys use Pod2's planner for? Why did you start using it and what all do you use it for?
Yeah, so we use Pod2's planner for our 5-year planning and running different scenario analysis on different rig schedules and pad orders to optimize our production and capex to meet whatever corporate goals have been set out for us. We started using it because our internal tools previously, we were sort of like combining different data sources, putting them together in Excel. And when we would change our assumptions or change anything like type curves or capital, you'll kind of turn into this black box. So now we're working with this plan that we didn't 100% know what was going into it. And, in Excel, once it becomes a big file, it slows down. So it's crashing on us. And it was very difficult to share a plan between team members. So we have multiple team members on a development team. So we are struggling with kind of the transparency of our plan prior to working with.
That's when you say you were bringing stuff in from different sources. What other different sources or what kinds of things were you bringing in and what was painful about that?
Our base production would be coming from Valnav, and then we would have our, say, current year capital coming from our, internal strat planning sources such as Acerna. So we're using Acerna for our capital. So we'd be combining in Excel a Valnav base, a capital from Acerna, and then we would be scheduling all of our future wells and our future plans out of, say, our like future inventory. So that's coming from another internal database. And the assumptions we'd apply onto those would then be kind of just coming from the development team, not necessarily in the data source, just piling a lot of assumptions into Excel.
It was hard to share. The file would get big. It would get kind of, I guess, especially the black boxy part of it. What's the damage of having your call it your planning tool be kind of black boxy?
Yeah, so I guess one thing touching on kind of being able to share between team members is if the person who is responsible for a 5-year plan was away, either sick or on vacation or any other reason, it'd be really difficult for another team member to pick it up and say, okay, where did they leave off? What are the assumptions? There was a lot of, as I said, kind of external data sources or assumptions feeding into one Excel, and it wouldn't always be laid out very clearly. Pod2's planner, there's an assumptions tab. You can go and look at your CapEx model so you know how that's calculating. You can look at your development model for your cycle time and you know exactly what it's calculating. It's very easy to pick up from any point and switch between team members.
So it's easier to dive into it and understand what's going on compared to some of the other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The assumptions are laid out very clearly in the planner tool. And then the other question was more on the black boxiness and the transparency of our previous plans. So it kind of goes hand in hand, I guess, with what I just kind of highlighted about being able to pass the plan off between different team members. But yeah, it kind of ties in with both passing off between team members and then also kind of keeping track of all those different data sources that I spoke about that we're putting into the plan. One Excel sheet that had very like sanitized inputs with an output. And then trying to figure out what assumptions went into all the inputs. You'd have like several backup Excel sheets that show that, like, say, cycle time model. And then you kind of build these formulas into Excel and it wasn't very clear. So we really like the Pod2 planner assumption model. It's very easy to enter and it's very easy to understand what assumptions have been put into your plan.
So I'm assuming you guys just went through toward the end of last year, you went through kind of a rehash of 5-year plan and budget and all of that stuff. Could you just kind of walk through how that went and maybe compare it to previous years?
I would say previously, when we were using all of our internal tools, they all met into this one big Excel spreadsheet. Over the years, our 5-year plan model and the assumptions we put into it has gotten a lot more complex. So
Mm.
previously, the Excel tool was fine. It worked for what we were doing, but getting a little bit more detailed on assigning type curves, and we have, different benches that we're targeting within our resource play. It just got a lot more difficult to handle within Excel. So there's a lot of flexibility within Pod2's planner tool where really you have each asset and each asset is a well. So now when you have multiple wells on a pad with multiple zones and different type curves and different assumptions going in for your drilling costs, because now, a different bench is deeper, etc. There's a lot of complexities that we're now putting into our 5-year plan model. Pod2's planner has really allowed us to honor all those assumptions and keep them organized rather than kind of building out backup Excel tables to support all the assumptions we made. So as we transitioned to Pod2, it was quite a seamless process, I would say. Pod2's planning tool is laid out very intuitively. It's very easy to use. So really like that header import where you have all of your well attributes and any assumptions that you require to calculate off as like TMD. Trying to think of what else we use, like number of stages for your completions, cycle times and costs, etc. It was really easy for us to integrate Pod2 into our new 5-year plan process.